This time on the show, I traveled to Toorcon San Diego and talked to Don Bailey and Nick DePetrillo about the Carmen Sandiego project and why the telephone network is full of false privacy assumptions. Dan Tentler joins us to talk about hacking people, and we catch up with George Spillman to find out about the end of the world. All that and more on this episode of Hak5.
Yeah, hook me up, I'm ready.
This episode of Hak5 is brought to you by introducing the Ben Heck Show, building, modding, and electronics culture with Ben Heck and friends, brought to you by Element 14. Domain.com, got a great idea? It all starts with a great domain, domain.com. And GoToAssist Express, support smarter with GoToAssist Express.
Hello and welcome to Hak5. My name is Darren Kitchen. This is your weekly dose of Technolist. I've got an amazing show for you guys this week because I'm recently back from Toorcon. That's right, I went down to San Diego with my favorite camera buddy, Mr. Tripod. Yeah, I did a con solo. A con solo? I did a con solo. I'm gonna keep going. And I had a lot of fun just talking to so many cool people that were giving talks there, and I thought that I would share with you this really laid back, chill kind of con coverage episode. I think you guys will really enjoy. We'll be back. Actually, we've got so much stuff from Toorcon that I'm gonna have to split it up into 2 episodes. But I think you guys are really going to like the crazy phone freaking and psycho and Toorcon stuff that we have going on this week, and then social engineering and IP6 stuff for next week. So you guys are going to love that. And then we'll be right back into the whiteboard and all sorts of fun hackery stuff. So stay tuned for that. And again, thank you all for your well wishes. I am recovering still, but yeah, it feels good to be on my feet, as it were. And yeah, without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into the chillaxed Toorcon program, and I will see you guys on the other side.
Join zany electronics hobbyist Ben Heck and friends as they build and modify a host of amazing community-inspired creations. Tune into the Ben Heck Show every other Monday right here on Revision 3. The Ben Heck Show is brought to you exclusively by Element 14, the online store and community for electronics design engineers. Check out element14.com.
So Nick, Don, guys, thank you so much for having me out here. I know this is like really late, but it's post-Toorcon, and I figured it wouldn't be completing the experience unless we talked to you guys about the amazing research that you guys have been presenting here. And I was hoping that you could break down for the viewers that haven't been fortunate enough to be here at the con what the Carmen Sandiego project really is.
Yeah, thanks, man. We're really happy to be here. This is an awesome experience, obviously. Toorcon, being able to hang out here, give this interview, and this is a beautiful place to do it, don't you think, Nick?
I think it is.
Yeah,
I think that's another interview though for itself.
Okay, yeah, we're going to talk about that off camera some other time.
Yeah.
But break it down for me, because I'm so, like, as a former phone freak, I'm just fascinated with the level that this has gone. What are the foundations of the Carmen Sandiego project?
So basically, Carmen Sandiego project encompasses 2 main facets, right, to build this platform of information gathering. And that's building upon prior research on GSM backend networks to do geolocation. And then also building upon prior research on manipulating caller ID databases and basically being able to pull arbitrary caller ID lookups. So the story really goes, there was some original research done by a man named Tobias Engel at the CCC a couple of years ago. And he gave a talk about this thing called HLR, which is the home location register. It's just this record that has information about a GSM handset and what network it's connected to, the mobile switching center, the MSC number that it's connected to, which corresponds to some geographic location. And in his talk, he just kind of presented it. It's just one of those architectural things that exists. What was unique about his talk, though, was that he was talking about how there are these European companies that actually provide third-party access to these records. And
records that the telco keeps.
Well, yeah. So whenever your phone's connected to a tower, it puts an entry into this registry basically that says I'm this phone, this is my home network. You might be on some provider X and you're roaming on provider Y, and it just basically keeps track of everything.
Right, because they need to know that for billing purposes and other such things. Yeah,
and call routing and everything. And so part of this information that's exposed by these private companies is supposed to be used for like SMS marketers and things like that, and for routing calls or text messages. But in reality, what it exposes is a person's actual geolocation.
Now, persons or their MSL number, or does it correspond to the phone number, like who this person is and where they are?
Well, see,
or is it whitewashed?
No, actually, that's the funny thing. It totally depends on the provider. I mean, there's a lot of caveats here and everything like that. But generally speaking, what you get is a general location of where somebody is, and we added some intelligence onto that, where we're able to do arbitrary caller ID lookup, and we're able to now add a name to this number. And actually, I'll let Don talk a little bit about caller ID lookups in the United States and what's unique about that and how it relates to this research.
Yeah, can you expand on that for me? Because I know that caller ID is different when it comes to the cellular network than it is with the plain old telephone system. How does that tie into the San Diego project?
Well, it's not really different. I mean, caller ID is caller ID.
Well, it's not a 1200 baud modem that does the little blurt right before the second ring or something.
But it is, right? Because it's the same information coming from the same database. It's just populated with different data, right? So essentially, you're receiving pretty much exactly the same thing. If you have a phone system at your house that does caller ID, and I call it with my cell phone, it'll probably pull up the same data. Just nobody really cared or noticed before or realized, hey, that's weird. We should probably think about using that as a resource. You know what I mean? So the cool thing that we figured out, and that I'm sure other people had figured out, but we decided just to take advantage of it in, I think, a unique way. And that we just said, okay, let's take an entire exchange of phone numbers for a particular region and pull all the caller ID entries for that region and see what we come up with.
Now, how do you pull the caller ID numbers? Because in order to receive the caller ID, you have to have them call you. So it's not a war dial situation where you can just call every phone number in the exchange.
It is.
It is?
And yeah, the reason why is because we turned it into a war dialing situation. So what we do is we backspoof. So we set up a PBX like Asterisk or anything else. We enable caller name lookups or CNAME on the actual DID. And then we just sit there and call ourselves over and over and over.
So you pretend that you're them.
Yeah, exactly. We just spoof the phone number to ourselves.
So they're not even in the loop. Their phone never rings.
Their
It's not
phone has nothing to do with it. Yeah,
it's not like we're dialing in the middle of the night in the 90s and you get a whole bunch of disgruntled people.
Exactly. But we're essentially war dialing ourselves. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Because you're still going through the
you're
plain old
just
telephone
iterating
system,
through the
and
list.
they see, oh, hey, such and such is doing this, and then it comes back to you, and they don't know the wiser.
Exactly. So the
Wow.
provider that we're connected to is providing us with the CNAME information. All we have to do is make that call to ourselves. And over time, we're amassing thousands upon thousands of records, throw that into a SQL database, and then we just perform lookups on it and see what's there.
Since you only need one or two rings to get your lookup.
You don't even need that. The best
Really?
part about it is you can just drop the call right on the floor, because in the first packet coming in off the wire, it's got the caller ID data.
So you can immediately make
you just
the next
immediately
call.
drop it off. Yeah.
And then with an
all you
asterisk
pay
box
for-
with a whole bunch of SIP.
Yeah, the only thing that you pay for is the CNAME lookup itself. Everything
Really?
else is completely
So-
retarded.
so
there's no reason to use any other piece of information.
So how many are you able to?
Microphone in your hand?
Well, we're doing an interview right
Hey,
now.
wos's up, Osman?
What's up?
See,
Hey,
this
how's it
is
going?
Mike Osman.
No worries. It's all cool.
This man here. No,
Osman is my hero.
Yeah.
no, don't go anywhere. We're talking about something that you can actually contribute to. Women.
So what you're saying is that you can do an entire exchange and get the CNAME in a second, so you could just pretty much brute force all of those just by going sequentially through the numbers using your own asterisk box.
Absolutely. It's incredibly easy. And
How many numbers
it takes
did you
really
do?
no time. Are you kidding me?
I was just wondering, yeah. Did you
Hundreds
do
of thousands of numbers.
Really?
Are you
Man,
kidding me? It's fractions of a cent per lookup.
Yeah, it took so
Do you think
much
we're not
mo-
going to pull entire states? We're looking through California, saying to ourselves, "Hey, who lives in California? Celebrities. You know, it would be really funny to call celebrities.
So you did just an entire reverse lookup of all of the phone numbers in California?
Pretty much, but we focused on where are people going to live? Malibu, Beverly Hills, stuff like that. So we just, started scanning, seeing what we got, and we got a lot of phone numbers, a lot of really interesting phone numbers.
Okay, so
and, unfortunately, when you call those numbers, nobody picks up because celebrities are smart enough to know if some random people call my phone, I'm not going to pick it up. Yeah. So, it's a lot less fun when it actually comes down to it, but you can still say, hey, I got this really cool person's phone number. Never going to talk to them, but it's still pretty neat
but
that you can
call,
do that.
You could call Lindsay Lohan's sidekick if you wanted.
Well, I wouldn't really want to call that number, but if I wanted a tragedy, I could watch TV.
There we go.
Yeah. So that's really the issue here.
All right.
But the fact is, you can get it, and you can get it easily, and that makes it fun.
Okay, so I get the point that you've got. Okay, so now you have a reverse lookup of the name to the number, and that ties in with this HLR. This HLR record, the human lookup record. What was it? Lookup record?
Home location register.
Home location.
So
register.
let's tie them together.
Yeah.
Right? With HLR, you've got the ability to track people's location, their current location, and obviously, if you do this over time, you can map where they've been for the last month, day, however long you want.
They keep these records for a long time?
No, but we can. Obviously, if we're pulling that information.
Well, how do you pull that information?
But first, let me tie this together.
Sure.
So you've got HLR tracking. You've got caller name lookups. That gives you the ability to find individuals.
Right.
So now, if I don't know your phone number, and I scan through the entire caller ID name list, I can find your phone number based on your name. And then what I simply do is use the tracking software to watch where you go and when you're there. And I can make associations based on that information. I can say, hey, you work in the north side of San Francisco, but you seem to live at night in the south side of San Francisco. And so I'm watching these behavioral patterns and building a dossier about your life over time. And Nick can actually elaborate on that a little bit more because we use some other tricks to actually enhance that information by building social networks and analyzing the people that you talk to and what you talk about.
So this is like Foursquare stalking plus.
Way beyond Foursquare plus.
Yeah,
this is out in space.
Yeah,
somewhere.
this is crazy. Well, hang on. Can you elaborate? How do we even get access to that fire hose of data? Like, where do you get the HSR?
The HLR?
The HLR.
Well, I described that earlier. It's the third party.
Well, you said the third parties, but
Yeah.
who do I sign up with? Where do I get an account? What do I do?
If you just go Google around, you'll find that information, and you can just read Tobias Engel's original papers, and there's some stuff out there about it. But and then like Don said about the caller ID stuff, the backsmith method, you can implement that in Asterisk and then just log the results.
Yeah.
And then make the correlation yourself.
I'm just envisioning like a reverse lookup table database of all phone numbers in the U.S.
Yeah,
probably
and so-
done within the month.
And so what a lot of people don't realize is that the
Sooner than
GSM
that.
providers include your primary account holder name and the phone number in the caller ID database. And so with HLR, we can determine if a phone is an actual cell phone number and which provider it belongs to. And then we can say...
You can find out the provider even
Yes.
with name portability
Yes,
or number
absolutely.
portability. How
Yeah.
so?
Well, think about what we're querying. We're asking the cell phone backend, who does this belong to? What's the home network of this number? And so the home network of that number will be the original provider. So that's one of the advantages that you get when you are trying to do basically reconnaissance on a person and you want to know what provider they have. It's impossible to determine that accurately just by their cell phone number. You need to ask the cell phone network, what provider are you using? And even with number portability, it will tell you accurately.
It's the current one, not just the originating one. Like
The
I've got
current
an
one,
original
yes.
Sprint number, but I'm on Verizon now, so you can tell that.
So yeah, and obviously this is primary GSM, but
Well, right,
those
but
are
I mean, if
CDMA.
I was on like T-Mobile or AT&T, you
Right,
can pull my docs.
or anywhere in the world, any GSM carrier in the world.
in the world,
Yes.
because the HSR is
HLR.
HR. So I'm going to do that all
It is
night.
1 something a.m. So.
But yeah, it's but that's just part of the spec across the globe.
Yes.
And then what about the caller ID part? Would you be able to do
The
that
caller ID
across
part,
the country?
we primarily did in the United States, but if there is a similar system and those similar policies anywhere else in the world, then it would work.
Huh. We're
Now,
getting word
my
out right now.
room phone is ringing, and I have to answer that.
Okay. Well, why don't you explain to me what led you to even get into, like, what led you down this original path to begin with, to even start playing with this?
Just Tobias's work. We thought it was unbelievably cool, and we didn't think it got enough respect. And that was really the main issue. To us, we thought, okay, here's a really cool presentation at CCC, but it's really being overlooked, and nobody's determining whether or not it's affecting individuals in the United States. So we decided, you know what, we could take the information we have about caller ID, we could combine it with this information and determine whether or not it's vulnerable in the United States, and then use that information combined together to create a map of the United States, and then determine whether or not we can follow people around and do all this crazy stuff. And that was really, it was simply a curiosity.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And also respect for Tobias's work, you know?
So when you say follow people around, at what level of detail can you actually follow someone around?
Well, the granularity varies. And usually a mobile switching center, this is the code that we find in the HLR, the MSC value, that tells you the general location that somebody's in.
Does it just tell you the towers that they're connected to?
No,
or
it's
can you
just
triangulate,
a serial number. That's all it is. It's just a string of numbers. And it usually looks like a phone number, but the context is really neither here nor there. The point is, it's a number that's typically opaque.
Okay.
And you have to determine how big or how small this number actually is, or what this, range of area represents. So what we ended up doing is we determined how we could reverse engineer these MSCs and determine how big or how small they were. So what we did is we took a look at the caller ID database again and said, all right, so we know we can take blocks of numbers and we can pull caller ID information for all these different numbers. Well, what can you do with that name information? Obviously, if we have white pages access, a lot of people still have home phones.
Yeah.
We can just simply go out to whitepages.com. They have a development site where we can now take that name, put it in a general area. Like if I know I'm pulling Denver, Colorado, I just put John Smith, Denver, Colorado, and see what pops up. Take all the results. What's really cool about White Pages now, if there is if there's an entry for a person's home address, you don't just get the address, but you also get a latitude and longitude of where that person lives.
Okay.
So obviously that's really easy to pinpoint in a KML or some kind of other mapping format,
Sure.
right? So what you do is you take all those names, you toss them into White Pages, get all the results, and then start plotting them on a map. And you say, okay, I know this person is in Denver, Colorado during the day, and I know they're in Denver, Colorado at night. So the MSC that I pull for them should be Denver, right? So I also know exactly where they live, and I know the latitude and longitude. So I have a point on a map that defines this is where this MSC value 1234 is. And then over time, you amass more and more information about different people that all live within this MSC, and you eventually create a bounding box that gives you the physical approximation of what the outer boundaries of this area is. So now not only do I know
So that's
the
how you
code-
figure out. So that's how you reverse the MSC to figure out what those areas are, what those codes for the geolocation
Well,
is.
that's how we give it a physical characteristic.
Yeah.
So not only do we know Denver, Colorado is associated with MSC 1234,
Right, so it's not
but
a-
we know that it's a specific size and shape, and we know what other cities it comprises.
Just based on doing enough of these that you've reversed and gotten the caller ID for and the names and stuff to create this has the same MSC, these all have the same MSC, and they are in these neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So you're really just reversing the blocks that these MSC numbers correspond to geographically.
Pretty much.
Whoa, that sounds like it took a lot of time.
It did take a lot of time, but it only took in as much time as it took for us to figure out the technique and then implement the technique. Implementing it, because obviously when we were first doing this, we didn't have a lot of really powerful software. We were doing very simple stuff and just doing what we had to do to get the job done.
Yeah.
But now we've moved our software into the cloud, and we can re-image the entire United States in a day if we wanted to.
Wow.
But the point is that you now know the physical boundaries of where these MSCs are. So not only do I know where you're in Denver, but I can figure out approximately where you are in Denver. Like if I see you move from an adjacent MSC into the MSC of Denver, I know if you're going at a rate of speed that I can predict.
They're that
or
small that you
calculate.
can figure out like if they're on the go?
Well, if they're on an expressway, then sure. If it's a long expressway and you see them hop multiple MSCs, you can predict pretty much what the timing is.
Funny enough, we actually didn't even talk about the cloud stuff today in our talk, even though we went over.
Yeah, we didn't even have time. But yeah, that would
There's
have been
just so
cool.
much information that's related to this that we literally talked for about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Because we had the last slot,
Well-
which I think, by the way, it was by design, which is why.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was actually pretty smart.
Well,
of Ari.
then Nick, tell me about the cloud stuff. What is that all about?
Basically, all we did was to speed things up. We just experimented with running all of these techniques distributedly in the as distributed services, basically in the cloud, just to
Okay.
try to, do it in bulk. That's all.
Yeah.
Just experimenting with that, and again, just kind of theorizing if an attacker really wanted to do this on a grand scale. And this is something this is an approach that he might take. So I guess that's I don't know if you want to say more to it, but that's pretty much
Well,
what the main goal of it was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it breaks down to this. We want to be able to. Okay, so MSC values are opaque, right? I mentioned that earlier.
Yeah,
Which
it's just,
also
you said it
means-
was just a bunch of numbers, but
just
you
a
were
bunch of
able to
numbers.
translate them into geographic location by
Right.
reversing home
But
addresses.
the opacity is an important thing to remember because the opacity makes it really moot what this number is. So tomorrow, a provider could go say, hey, I'm going to switch out the MSC for Denver with the MSC for San Diego. They don't care because internally they know
They've
what those
got the
numbers
lookup
mean,
table, yeah.
but nobody else really cares, right?
Yeah, that's
but
why-
to me,
okay,
as
so
the
when you
attacker,
first said
I'm
that-
getting confused. I'm like, oh, well, these used to mean something else, but now everybody's showing up in San Diego. What's up with that? So we have to be able to very quickly reverse engineer the entire United States to know, oh, is there a conflict? Or is there new information? Are they changing? We're doing this all from a black box view, so we can't make any guarantees about what these values are or what they represent. We have to know that we have techniques that can reverse engineer all this information like that. And that was the driver for the cloud. And so we just tuned our software, threw it in the cloud, and said, hey, let's just scale it so we can, obviously just on demand, 1 server, 10 servers, 20 servers, just image it all now and take care of it.
Such a brute force approach. Not just the caller ID, but the MSI or the MSC and all of the other elements there. It's just mind blowing to see like what is possible when you just say, okay, we've got fast enough computers and fast enough lookups and all of this stuff. Why don't I just try everything and see what comes out the other end for that particular value?
Yeah, HLR gave us an inch, and we definitely learned how to get a mile out of it, But it literally it just took a small bit of ingenuity, a little bit of time.
So what
And
has the
that's it.
reception been from the telcos?
You can speak to that one. You actually have more experience. with
Yeah, I guess that's true. Well, we actually reached out to AT&T, T-Mobile, obviously the biggest GSM
Yeah, GSM,
carriers
sure.
in the United States, and they were actually extremely helpful. AT&T's CSO has been very, very kind to us and has been trying to work very closely with us, and he has done an exceptional job of being able to bridge the gap between us and the researchers and engineers at AT&T. So we feel that they've been doing an exceptional job, and they've actually secured a lot of these problems themselves. They figured out how to virtualize MSCs so that whenever you query an AT&T number, it no longer shows the MSC that corresponds with the physical location. It shows a virtual MSC, so everybody has the same number, and they only reroute the data internally.
Okay.
So it's almost like a NAT.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
for an
So
MSC.
exactly what you're talking about there.
Yeah,
There's like
yeah.
a little, there's a layer there.
Yeah.
Because these, like you said, you signed up for some sort of a service and you got an API where you could query things. You're being a little vague on this, but whatever it may be, whether it's a text messaging service or otherwise, wherever you're getting the HLR, they've basically whitewashed that value now, so
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
no good, right?
So they know who the bad actors are, and they consider this a breach of terms of service because they consider the MSC value to be private in the United States. So they
but
don't want to leak
before,
it.
But what they were doing wasn't just like blatant violation of your privacy by giving access to third parties the location data, because what they were, I mean, I can imagine what they were thinking was, oh, we'll run it through this hash function or whatever and give them a number, but they don't know that that number means Denver. Mm-hmm. And then you guys were to say, oh, well, here's the number. I don't know, let's try everything in Denver, and oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah, and that's kind of the cool thing because T-Mobile's network's a little bit different. Now, they've also been exceptional dealing with us as well, but they have different engineering problems. So they have architectural issues that are holding them back a little bit from releasing a solution to this faster. Now, they are working on it, and they will get it done, but it's not there now. And the point I'd like to make about them is that the interesting thing here is that their MSCs actually look like phone numbers. So if you pull their MSCs, they look exactly like, an American number, 1 area code exchange and XXX.
Yeah.
So what you end up seeing is like, oh, hey, when I pull the area code for Denver, the area code for Denver ends up looking like the area code for, the actual area code in exchange for, say, Boston, Massachusetts. So, maybe in their mind it was like easier to switch it around because then they'll say, well, this doesn't mean anything to anybody. It's obviously the wrong location. But because we were able to reverse engineer it, that doesn't mean anything to us.
Yeah.
We take it as if it's, 1, 2, 3, 4 or AAA. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, because you're just
Yeah.
going to look it up and then cross-reference it. And,
Exactly. We
and
just use our
that's just
techniques to
amazing
turn that
because
into a location.
This is just further evidence that just the technology is fast enough. The data is readily available enough that the idea of just doing a reverse lookup of something by building your own tables, totally separate from like I don't know, NTLM on one side to geographic locations and phone numbers on the other side. I mean, wow.
Well, the funny thing is, doing arbitrary caller ID lookups is nothing new. I mean, that's the kind of trick that's been around for a while.
It's cute. It's a fun parlor trick.
And
though.
this
It's
HLR
cute.
stuff is obviously based on prior research. What we're doing really is we're taking these pieces of research, these resources, we're combining them, and then we're taking them 20 steps forward.
Well, congrats
And-
for doing that because it sounds really sexy, the
Thank
kind
you
of stuff
very
you've done.
much.
Now,
And
go ahead.
I was just going to say, and then once we've taken them 20 steps further, we have this platform of, that we can use to gather information about people, and then we can build all these little vertical applications on top of that platform.
Yeah, I can imagine
And that's
that-
what we talked about in our talk. Really was let's say when we first gave the talk, it was about here's the base research. Then when we talked to Black Hat, it was here's the base research plus some more. And then finally here at Toorcon, it's here's a little bit of the base research. You might have heard of it or by now, but here's a lot of different examples about what else you can do with this.
Right. So I'm sure you've got some fun stories about I mean, it's a stalker's wet dream, right?
Yeah. Well, the point of the
what we like to point out.
Yeah, the
Okay,
point of the
no, I
research here
understand, right?
is to make
But I
sure
mean,
that
if
we.
you wanna talk about
the point of the
Black Hat
research is so that we
nefariousness, there
can
you
show
go.
that we can do something without having lots of resources at hand.
Yeah.
Right. It's just showing what we can accomplish as civilians without having, let's say, like government resources to pull off like geolocation tracking. Now remember, there's caveats. It's not as granular. It's very macro. And another point of the research is that it's very passive. It doesn't alert the user. It's not attacking the phone. We're poking at the
Yeah,
back
you're not
end.
like looking at their GPS or you're not doing a rootkit. There's nothing that they could discover because you didn't even call them to reverse their caller ID, and you're only getting it through this third-party service where they happen to be. So, yeah.
I think the one thing that I'd really like to say and clarify about this project is we had no intentions of, trying to mimic a stalker or be a stalker or anything of that nature. The one thing that we did want to do is say with an extreme minimal amount of resources, minimal amount of time, and minimal amount of money, what is the most information that we can assess or obtain from the global telecommunications network? And not only that, but how can we build applications off of that in such a fashion to give us even more data about individuals or organizations or even governments all over the world with no effort whatsoever? Because to us, it's not about being black hat and it's not about being shady. It's not about any of that. It's about true hacking is all about the resource and all about your willingness to go out there and obtain information out of air, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. That's the spirit. So your ability to be able to put all these things together that are just essentially just a huge abstract puzzle without any resources telling you what these things are. That's the goal. The Carmen Sandiego project is all about being able to put those things together in an efficient manner,
Well,
And
it's an excellent story of exactly what you said. Just the
It's a puzzle
what it is
piece,
to be a
that's
hacker.
all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great stuff.
Yeah.
So is the cloud platform? I'm assuming that's not a public thing.
No.
No. I mean, obviously, this research, what we talk about publicly is what we talk about publicly.
Yeah. Now, is there somewhere that our viewers that are more interested in this stuff can dig deeper and find out about your research and the research that you're building on the giant's shoulders that you're standing on here?
Yeah, the CarmenSanDiegoProject.com
Yes.
is where you'll find the white paper and the Black Hat slides and eventually the Toorcon slides.
And also the references for other people whose work we've based ours on.
Yes, and the references for everything's at the CarmenSanDiegoProject.com.
Cool. Guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate you, and this has definitely tickled my taco.
We appreciate you too, Darren.
Oh, thank you. No, but I'm serious. Like you said, this really is a perfect example of what it is to be a hacker.
Would you like a microphone?
Trust your Technolust, bitches.
All right, thanks.
If you're an IT or software consultant, you're always looking for ways to be competitive. You need to grow your business, but can't be in two places at once. That's why I recommend remote support with the new GoToAssist Express. The faster you can connect to a customer, the faster you can move on to the next challenge. With GoToAssist Express, you'll increase revenue by handling more support requests, reduce travel time and overhead costs, support clients even when they're not at their computer, and rise above the competition by providing faster, more professional service. Hak5 viewers can try GoToAssist Express free for 30 days. For this special offer, visit gotoassist.com/hak5. That's gotoassist.com/HAK5 for a free trial.
Well, Gio, congratulations on the 12th Toorcon. You've done a dozen now, right?
Yep, it's been 12 of them here in San Diego, the few in Seattle, and the one tour camp. But we're really racking them up.
Yeah, now tell me about the tour camp, because last we talked was Toorcon 10. Sorry we had to miss 11, but we're here on out, now being on the West Coast. Absolutely love the con that you put on here, and you just threw an amazing event at a missile silo location we were talking about last time. Like, what was that all about, the tour camp?
It's the U.S. first hacker camp. We got a hold of a Titan 1 missile silo. That's right, a f***ing Titan 1 missile silo. I can swear, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So we got a hold of a missile silo in Western Washington, took it over for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, had everyone drive out, set up camps, kind of a little bit like Burning Man for geeks. We had one group that brought in 6 shipping containers, set them up in a giant circle, put up the blue tarps on the 60-foot crow's nest in the center,
Whoa.
and had parties there, raves every day until 4 in the morning. We roughed it, but we made sure there was internet. The
essentials,
We built showers
Oh,
out
okay.
there. So we had showers out there. We had minimal facilities, but it was a great time. Everyone had a wonderful time. There was a real sense of community and camaraderie, as opposed to...
Yeah. How many people you show up that? I'm trying to get a sense of the scope
I can show you some of the photos that I have in a bit, but I think like 400 or 500, something like that.
Wow.
A lot of people.
Yeah, so really like a Burning Man for geeks, for real.
The one group that brought in the shipping containers, I think there were 80 people in their group.
Wow.
So it was huge, but because one of the things I really loved about it was the fact that unlike a conference like this, which is great, it's academic, it's wonderful, we have good talks during the day, we go downtown, we eat, we have big parties, we have a wonderful time, but everyone kind of segments off.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got their little groups.
At the end of the
stuff.
day, this group goes to this restaurant, whereas when you're in the camp, you're pretty much stuck there.
Now, this campus is in so it's at a missile silo, so
Yes.
I'm assuming middle of nowhere.
The government tends to like to put missile silos out in the middle of nowhere. So yeah, it was basically what we found out after we were there. It was the second largest deposit from Mount St. Helens.
Really?
That is the second after the area immediately in the vicinity of the volcano. I guess ashes went up, some came immediately down, and some came down where we were. So there was a lot of ash there. It was hot. There's a lot of ash. We had our share of dust devils and other fun things, but you know what? People really hunkered down. There's a real sense of surviving all the roughness, roughing it out in the wilderness.
Yeah,
That was
I
great.
mean, hackers and camping, it doesn't, I mean, then again, I'm one that, I'm one to speak, so, yeah. But no, that sounds great.
Well, we did want to get people out of their element. That was part of the idea behind it. And where I was going that before, because everyone's camping there together, everyone's together 100% of the time. And so I could be walking down in between some of the different campsites and have people, hey, Gio, come on in, come have dinner with us. People set up, some people cooked for a week in advance just to get all the food set up for their team. You just wandered left and right, and people invite you in for pancakes in the morning, or come have a beer with us, or come eat our Italian peasant cuisine that we've got set up. It was phenomenal.
And there's still like workshops and
Yeah,
sessions going on at the same time and all that?
Yeah, we actually had facilities for obvious reasons. The missile silo has been decommissioned for a long time. For obvious reasons, we couldn't have people camping down there. There's a lot of broken concrete. There's a lot of rebar sticking out. It's kind of a dangerous environment. But we did have some of the talks down there, which was actually wonderful considering it was probably 150 degrees up top but you go down 6 stories, and it's a
Yeah, I
cool,
bet.
even, I think 62 or something like that.
Not bad.
So it was nice, and it really lent a very kind of fall of the Berlin Wall feel to it, because the deconstructing
Oh, yeah.
facility with graffiti all over the place, it was just a perfect context for this.
That sounds awesome. I wish I could have been there. Now, do you have any future plans for Tour Camp?
We do. We're going to go to the end of the world at the end of the world.
Where's the end of the world?
We're looking to go to Antarctica
Oh.
on December 21st, 2012.
Oh, so that is the end of the world.
The end of the world at the end of the world.
Nice.
So it should
How are
be.
you going to get there?
It primarily will be a boat voyage,
Uh-huh.
so it's not going to be camping as much, but you will still have the same environment where basically you're on the boat and you're pretty much there for the duration. So it should be one hell of a trip.
Yeah,
It's a
no
once in
joke.
a lifetime kind of a trip.
That does sound fantastic. Well, because it's the end of the world at the end of it. So have the festivities leading up to it, and then.
Yeah, and it is Tim.
So what we're saying is only get a one-way ticket, save yourself some money, right?
Well, yeah, it is.
Don't get a flight
It
home
is
from
going to
the-
be expensive,
Is it?
unfortunately. Well,
Well, to get to
getting
Antarctica,
there,
yeah,
it's not
where you
cheap.
have to leave from.
But I don't know. If the world really isn't going to end, let's
Yeah.
just grab a bunch of credit cards, max out your credit, and the world's over. So you don't have to pay it back.
Yeah. Sure.
I'm
Awesome.
not actually suggesting doing that.
No, we all know that the real end of the world is 2038. Unix time code reference. Anyway, that sounds fantastic. How many people are you going to take there? Is there a facility there? Are you going to do the same thing with workshops and sessions on Antarctica?
Well, the voyage is going to be most of it.
Okay.
So most of it's going to be on the boat. There's an area where we are going to touch land, and then I think people fly back from there. So most of the time is going to be spent on the boat, but I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunities to look out and spot penguins and other such things like that.
See, you've once again done the thing where you get a whole bunch of hackers in a space where they can't go off into all these separate groups.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be great.
It's
Geek cruise.
a wonderful
Hacker
sense
cruise.
of community that gets built from this, which is why I really like the whole camp thing.
Yeah, that is so cool. What about Toorcon Seattle? What's new there?
Toorcon Seattle, we're going into yet another iteration of it. That's a slightly different event from the San Diego. The only way you can get into Seattle is by invite. It's the kind of thing where once you're a member of the club, you're in for life. And typically, it's usually winding up to be speakers and other such people so it's a much tighter, smaller knit group, and it winds up being more of a symposium in a lot of respects, as opposed to sitting in a lecture hall with 500 people there. You can't really stop and interrupt the speaker to ask a question or correct them. Whereas in the smaller, more intimate environment, usually you probably know the speaker, and so it's much easier to heckle them. And it's much easier to stop them and interrupt them with a question or a clarification, or maybe you have an insight into a field that they have lightly touched on that they don't have fully developed, that you can interject with a, hey, but wait, did you think about X?
Yeah, and you don't have to throw soft rubber balls at them or anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and Toorcon, so what's been new with 12?
This is, of course, our 12th year that we're going into. It's probably one of the best Toorcons. I mean, they keep getting bigger and better, right?
Yeah.
But it's just something about this year, everything's just meshing beautifully. It's going as smooth as can be. We did have a little issue earlier this morning where we had lines lining up to get into some of the talks. I don't know if you were here for that.
Yeah.
But we had a huge line of people queued up, but we actually rearranged the room, got it so we can get everyone in there.
Huge line, a huge queue to get into a session. You obviously have never been to DEF CON.
Well, this is a
joking,
different
but-
event.
Yeah, I know.
This is a much different event.
It's so chill too. It's very.
That's
very
another
relaxed.
thing.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I like to say is that Toorcon's got 5 times the amount of information of DEF CON with 1/5 the liver damage.
Oh, there's a bit of liver damage, but it's in a very chill sort of way.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
because they reach a critical mass point where there's just too many people.
Yeah.
And love DEF CON, but the hassles of trying to get into the talk and just too many people, and it becomes almost an obstacle to learning anything. Where here, because it's a lot more chill, you have a tendency, I think, to pick up a lot more in a situation like this. So it's more accessible.
Yeah,
I
well,
like to think it's more
You
accessible.
guys definitely put on a great con. So what's next for you and Hikari and any more like tour spin-offs?
Well, I think 3 is enough to juggle for the time being. I'm sure we'll add more as time goes on, but 3 is enough to keep us busy for the time being.
Well, thanks for having us, man.
Oh, thank you for showing up. Love to have you here.
If you've got a creative idea or want to start a new business, I recommend getting a domain name and web hosting from domain.com. Domain.com has the domain you want, fast, easy, and inexpensive. With free domain tools including URL and email forwarding, DNS management, and transfer log. Their Linux-powered hosting plans are dependable, flexible, and affordable too. With free setup and no commitment required, their deluxe hosting offers unlimited bandwidth and site builder pages at a mere $8.75 a month. They even make it dead simple to get started with plenty of free software like WordPress, Joomla, Drupal, and more, all installed in just a few clicks. And as a Hak5 viewer, you get an extra 15% off your order when you check out with coupon code HAK5. Got a great idea? It all starts with a great domain, domain.com. So Dan, how do we hack people?
We get into their heads.
Yeah.
We get into their heads. There's a lot of really interesting things to throw some keywords out, things like pattern breaks, things like NLP, kinesics, proxemics.
You just threw a bunch of terms that I'm not familiar with.
Yep.
What does it all involve? What are we talking about here at Toorcon?
So, well, I'm giving a presentation on people hacking. People hacking, I like to define as getting people to do your bidding. My sort of catchphrase for the talk is people are USB sticks and you can read and write to them at your will, and they are to your mercy as a USB stick would be.
How would you go about programming a person?
You've probably seen people do stage hypnosis before. Mm-hmm. It's essentially the same thing, except it's very short term. So there's a guy named Darren Brown who's a show host in the UK, and he has a show, I think it's called Tricks of the Mind. Mm-hmm. And you can find him on YouTube. He has a lot of videos of him going into, for example, a jewelry shop and paying for thousands and thousands of dollars of jewelry with blank paper. He'll walk into a shop and he'll have blank paper in the shape of dollar bills, or hundreds presumably, and shell them out. And speaking to this person who does this every day, who handles money, he's talking to them, and while their mind is occupied processing what he's saying, he's handing them money, gesturally, as you know what programmed responses are, right? So like if I stick my hand out to shake it, you just instinctively want to shake my hand. Or if I'm going to hand you something, you just naturally want to take it.
You just gave me a knife.
I gave you a really expensive knife.
Sweet.
But that's sort of that transaction is what gets exploited. So if I were to hand you something and then interrupt that would be called a pattern break. And when a pattern break is issued, your mind sort of goes on pause. And you can do things, for example, Darren Brown's done it on video, where you can walk down the street, you can find somebody who looks like they're zonked. People that generally don't pay a lot of attention, or people that are sort of on autopilot, are the best targets. It doesn't work on everybody. It works on people that aren't really mentally sharp that day. Like you have slow days, right? So the slow days are when you're vulnerable.
Yeah.
Well, if somebody were to walk up to you and to start, for example, what Darren Brown did, started asking a guy for directions and then handed him a bottle. He tried to shake his hand, handed him a bottle. Handing him the bottle was a pattern break. The guy was confused for a moment, and while he was confused for the moment, like for a split second, he's like, wait, you were shaking my hand and directions, and wait, that's the vulnerability window. He immediately started saying, I need your wallet, I need your watch, I need your keys, your phone, and the guy just starts emptying his pockets.
So it was the human equivalent of a buffer overflow.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. It was buffer overflow. Buffer overflow, and then subsequently like a core dump, or I guess, or a SQL injection, and you're grabbing stuff. But
how is this different from social engineering?
Well, social engineering is, putting on a UPS uniform and walking into a place and saying, hey, I need to deliver this to the guy in the back. That's it. Social engineering historically has been very, very sort of topical. I had a friend tell me a story where they dressed up like fire marshals, and they had shirts custom embroidered with the city's fire marshal emblem, and started going into places like banks and asking, hey, we need to check your fire extinguishers in the vault. And they had said, okay. And that was, it's
a person of authority. What are you going to say, right?
Well, show me your credentials. You have fire marshal guy. Show me your tattoo or your severed baby head or whatever it is they give you that says you're fire marshal. A thought.
Embroidery.
Ask for credentials. I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
But
so what are some of those other terms that you were just mentioning?
Okay, so
the arsenal here.
Right. So there's a few of these different sort of they're based on psychology, or within the psychology realm. I'm still new to this. This is a hobby of mine, but I think it's really neat. Mm-hmm. So proxemics is the stance that people assume in social situations. For example, like the way we're standing now, somebody could approach us from this side. So our shoulders are open, right? If we were to say change our posture, suddenly it's a closed posture, and people over here generally will say, those people want to be left alone. They're not feeling social. There's a line through you. If you were to slice a person down the vertically like this, so that out to the left and right, there's 180 degrees or 90 over here and 45 or something like that over here. You have in front of you and behind you, and you can use that as a guide. So if you're looking at a group of people, or if you're looking at a person, and the person suddenly sort of puts you on the other side of that line, they're either telling you to fuck off, or if they're not aware of your presence, they may not be feeling social, or it depends on how things work out. But you can look at crowds like that one over there, and you can see, ooh, I can approach that crowd from this, vector sort of. That's called proxemics. Proxemics is being able to define people's interactions within certain boundaries, and there's 4, or I think I have them in my slides. It's like there's intimate, which is like 6 inches apart. Then there's friendly, which is further. But then you have these rings, and within these rings you have these different sort of access methods, where the farther away you are, the more I can tell just based on his stance, I can walk over and talk to that guy. Versus, if you're 3 feet, it's going to be slightly different. There's going to be more detail. There's going to be more minutia.
Well, what about the facial gestures?
That's kinesics.
You're talking about.
Right. So there's the 4 main things I'm going to be covering is proxemics, kinesics, cold reading, and NLP. Proxemics is what I just described. Kinesics is, if you've seen that show Lie to Me. Lie to Me. It's all kinesics is the study of facial mannerisms and body mannerisms and gestures. It's a meta-communicative communication, or nonverbal communication. So it's a body language. Basically, it's for emotions that you exhibit, you have certain tics or movements or gestures that you sort of invoke. So people that want to be closed, they'll fold their arms, they'll see them close their legs, or if they're nervous, they'll tend to shift their weight from one foot to the other. People that tend not to want to talk will put their hands in their pockets, or if they're fidgeting, it's anxiety. But all these different, I have a spreadsheet that I made, this huge cheat sheet that I'm going to be sharing with everybody after my talk. But this cheat sheet, you can look at this cheat sheet and watch any political interview and you'll just laugh.
Really?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's dumb. I mean, the spreadsheet is neat, but how badly these people lie is dumb. But
so it works best on politicians is what you're saying?
Any scenario wherein you think somebody is just lying through their teeth, then get familiar with the spreadsheet. It's really easy.
And are these elements that you should be adding to your hacker toolkit for social situations? Anytime
you're talking to anybody and you're like, did you nmap my server? Just look at their eyes and see what they do. Right, they'll be like, no, it couldn't have been me, no.
Yeah, like the rickshaw last night that wouldn't look me in the eyes, that he didn't have any change.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's all these little details just like that where you can tell something's off, right? But without a cheat sheet or having studied it, it's difficult to tell specifically what is off. Like, the interesting thing about this sort of thing is you can tell somebody's lying, but you can't know why. You can say they're exhibiting anxiety when answering this question, or they're exhibiting, those what's the term? It's like there's this gesture where you rub yourself for comfort. It's like you don't have any confidence in what you're saying, so you're fidgeting and rubbing yourself. It's weird.
Interesting.
There's a term for it, but it slips my mind.
Well, we'll come back to it if you remember.
Yeah.
What was that last one? NLP?
NLP. It stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. It's the story I was telling earlier about Darren Brown, pattern breaks.
Yeah.
So there's this really cool other, I found a clip on YouTube of this guy. They have these, I should back up. NLP is commonly used by marketing people and PR people to overwrite what you think about certain things. For example, any instance in the news where you see some marketing person busted for using subliminal messaging or subliminal advertising, where you'll have like a television show or a program or something happening, and then you'll get one frame of a logo, but the frame is prominent. Like, for example, the McDonald's logo that's bright red with yellow.
Right.
Just for 1 second. Like, you may not have seen it. It's like that line out of Pulp Fiction. You might not think you saw it, but you did. Your brain knows you did. And suddenly you're like, oh man, I could really use a quarter pounder. So that keys off of NLP. NLP is used, any person that you see calling themselves a life coach, any stage hypnosis person. NLP is literally writing to people for a temporary amount of time. People that are good at it are actual hypnosis. People that are hypnotists, I should say.
Yeah.
Those people can actually do damage if they do stuff wrong. They can like tell you that you really like stabbing yourself and you'll do it. With NLP, it's a less permanent, depending. Like you can go on YouTube and find videos of NLP people describing to you how you can hypnotize yourself. You can do self-hypnosis to do things like stop biting your fingernails or stop smoking or something or whatever. If you have a habit you want to get rid of, there's like these self-help guides, and they all key off of NLP. So if you take all these little bits and pieces and you put them together, you sort of come up with a sniper rifle. If you have kinesics, proxemics, NLP, and cold reading. Oh, and cold reading I forgot to touch on. Cold reading is, remember that guy John Edwards, I Can Talk to the Dead?
No.
I wish I could just pull that memory out of my head. No, so there's these people that go on television and they have this semicircle of stadium seating around them with 200 people, and they're like, oh, I'm getting a J name, Joanne, Joel, Joe, and then they look for kinesics in the crowd. They see the person in the crowd going, oh.
Yeah?
And the person, I had a father named Joe that just died last year. Oh yeah, Joe's telling me something about October. What's in October?
Oh, great. Yeah,
It's
I see where you're going
feeding
with this.
really
Okay.
vague details,
Yeah.
watching their kinesic response, and keying off of whether you're right or wrong based on their facial mannerisms and body gestures.
Yeah, I'm here to fix the server, the one that, well, you know, lately
Yes.
it's been crashing. Yes, the one on the floor with the third floor. Yeah, I'm here for the server on the third floor.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you take all these different things, you put them together, you get sort of this. The first thing that comes to mind is like core impact. It's just like this thing that's been put together that just has everything in it, where for every social interaction there's some sort of answer or key or cheat code or something where you can't get past over there. Oh, that's great. You talk to the receptionist lets you borrow her RFID card.
Nice.
Why risk yourself going into a secure area and being on camera and getting caught when you can have somebody else do it for you?
And so that's what you're talking about here at Toorcon.
You're turning people into assets, proxies, and they go and do your bidding.
And you've been studying this for a while. Can you give us maybe some ideas of where, like, if somebody was interested in this, where they would go to learn more?
Everything I found is following the right people on Twitter. There's a whole bunch of NLP people. That's a gray area because some people are actually interested in the stuff, and other people are like, I'm a life coach, give me all of your money.
Okay.
And it works, which is really scary. So there's people that are doing it that actually genuinely are interested in the subject matter, and there's people that know just enough to exploit it.
Yeah.
So
you've put together some cheat sheet stuff that
Yeah.
hackers can use to
Right.
add to their arsenal to.
this is really interesting
day-to-day.
stuff that you can use in a job interview, interviewing potential employees. Like if you're a senior sysadmin, interviewing a junior sysadmin, this stuff would come in really handy. Contract and salary negotiations. So you're talking to your boss, hey man, I need another 20G a year, and he goes,
Yeah.
yeah, there's something wrong. You need to find out what it is.
Yeah.
Right? So any scenario wherein people won't tell you the truth is a good start. Any scenario where you need something from somebody and you know they won't give it to you, so you have to like get around that.
Yeah.
Any scenario where you know that there's something behind that door on the left and you need it.
Okay. And so are you sharing this, the spreadsheet, your cheat sheet here at Toorcon?
Yeah,
have that published online?
It's a Google Doc right now, so after my talk, I'm just going to make it a flat-out Excel spreadsheet and publish it to my site.
Sweet.
So people can go grab it.
Yeah. Well, everybody needs to be following @this on Twitter. And
Thank you, sir.
Where can we find your other exploits?
A10 Labs, which is ATEN, right? Not A10, but San Diego, ask me about whiskey, ask me about beer, ask me about hacking.
Sounds good, man. Well, thanks so much for giving me the time.
Absolutely, sir.
Good seeing you at Toorcon again.
Anytime.
All right. Well, I'm going to go play with the knife.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
That just about wraps up this episode of Hak5. But before we get going, I want to let you know that we value your feedback. You can go ahead and send that over to feedback@hak5.org. It goes to the whole team. We love to read it, especially when it's kept short. Also, we don't have Shannon in for like our usual Technolist photo or questions or whatever, but we'll get back to the regular Hak5 formula here soon enough as we transition to season 9 that it is. But yeah, I want to thank you guys for sticking around. Next week we will have even more good stuff from Toorcon, so look forward to that. I also want to remind you that if you want to support the show, free and easy way is to just go ahead and subscribe on iTunes or Miro or YouTube. You could also support the show with your dollars by heading over to hak5.org/store. Get yourself some fine swag. Just saying, pretty cool stuff. And also, what else is going on? Not much. I can't really think of anything else off the top of my head. Just follow the Twitter and the Facebook, and I'm gonna go have another happy pill. That's what's up. All right. Until next time, trust your technologist. Is that what we do? Yeah, that's the way we do it, right? Yeah, pretty sure.
That light is very bright.
Yeah, but you know what? It gives us that nice hacker glow that we all. Yeah, it's that. It tries to simulate that of a LCD monitor, 3 a.m. kind of.
Simulates it badly.
Well,
A little too bright.
I've got it set to bash. I could turn it to TCL if you'd like,
No, dude.
but I'd
Stay
prefer.
safe.
You have to go there. And after the whole thing, like I thought we would resolve this, and you're gonna go to. All right, I understand. No, it's cool. I'll leave you in the seashell. I mean, we can compromise.
You're awful.
I know.
You're funny, though.